of a stock market session, the morning session. Okay, Apple Computer has more volume in the morning session of a single day than silver does for the entire year. That's how small silver is. And it has the power to break the dollar because of all the naked shorts that have been piled on for 30 years. They never get called upon. The regulators, CFTC, they always give them a pass. Okay, if there's a need to drive down the silver price, yeah, they can do an entire annual silver mining output dump with paper in a single hour. No consequences. They did that a month ago. They probably did it today because we're down, I think
we're down like 3 cents.
$1.50.
Well, I just checked silver about 10 minutes ago and it was like 61.
Down a buck and a half.
No, 60. It's about like $3. Yesterday when I checked it before I went to bed last night, and it was like $64.20. $64.20, and this morning when I woke up, or just when I checked it a few minutes ago, it was about $61.30.
More than a couple bucks.
Yeah.
I honestly, I watch the factors. I watch what moves it. I watch the commentary. I watch the vulnerability. And I heard this morning that it hit 64. So I spoke incorrectly. I thought it was down a buck and a half. No, it's down to 61 plus. We are in the middle of a precious metal bust. And the bust goes to the upside. It doesn't go busting down. What busts is the paper naked shorts. The Russians know what's going on. And the Russians have renewed motivation to do attacks because the European Commission, the Parliament, Ursula von der Leyen, van der Leyen liar.
I like van der Leyen better.
They're making plans now, not just to steal interest on the 340 billion in Russian-owned bonds. They're planning to do some outright confiscation because they're so desperate. And the British are desperate too. They're taxing farms. I believe I read that correctly as a 200,000 pound tax. Might have been a 300,000 pound tax, the average farm tax. Okay, the Parliament is saying, you got all these assets, so we're going to tax them. Well, why don't you drop the Islamic welfare? Okay, here's a fact that very few Americans know. There are over 60 million British in England, and 70 little cities, 70 cities have an Islamic mayor.
Wow.
Okay, so right now when you have 1,200 tractors descending on London and the Parliament, they're making a statement. Drop the Islamic welfare. You're supporting Islam and you're attacking farms. So what are they doing, Ron?
Eating themselves from within?
They're going to stop the food distribution.
Mm-hmm.
No food in supermarkets.
So basically what they're turning into is they're going to turn into Africa.
Well, they're pretty much in North Africa right now. I'd love to know what the Islamic population percentage is. It must rival France by now. I don't ever hear France has 70 cities who are Islamic mayors. I have a friend who went to London and said, Jim, I've never seen so many Muslims. I've never seen so many Chinese faces. And a different friend said the same thing about New York City. I heard a great joke. The United States is no longer a melting pot. It's a chamber pot. You know what a chamber pot is?
Oh, yes, I do.
The chamber pot is what you take a leak in and this is for like 200, 300 years ago. They didn't have bathrooms. So they didn't want to go out to the outhouse and take a dump.
Not at night.
No, not at night, and not at 4:30 in the morning when you really
Right.
couldn't hold it back anymore. So you go to the chamber pot, and it's a big pot, this kind of diameter, and you take a dump in it. I would love to know what they used for toilet paper back then. I would love to know because anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
I remember. I remember during the Civil War when Benjamin Butler, who was a general, he was the governor of New Orleans when the North kind of took over New Orleans. All the women in the quarter, whenever the Union soldiers would walk by, they dumped their chamber pots on them.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So he put in a general order, and he said any woman who does that to a Union officer or soldier is going to be treated basically like a hooker, and you're going to be treated accordingly. And
hookers weren't illegal. I thought you were going to say
an
enemy combatant,
prostitution or whatever, but whatever.
That wasn't illegal back then.
I'm just saying that's what he said. Now,
maybe
I don't know how to determine.
They'd whip them.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to refer to something that would bring about a hanging.
No, I don't think it was going to be a capital punishment, but certainly they were going to get some sort of punishment.
Well, let's be real. The chamber pots that were the chamber pots that could be hurled would usually be urine.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So it was a yellow rain. Okay. Let's get off that. I know it.
Moving on. Hey, this is Untold History, right? My channel's Untold History, so we can inject a little historical humor in there.
Well, okay. Silver is the Achilles heel. I don't see any upside limit. And I did a show recently where the host said to me, Jim, do you see $100 in the next 2 or 3, 4 months? I said, yes, I don't see anything stopping this. There's no metal to stop it. The bidding is strong. And there's a lot of bad financial analysis out there. They're saying that silver is going up because of golly, I forgot. It was so stupid what they said that I forgot. What are some of the things that they say? Why is silver going up? I countered by saying, no, it's the U.S. government debt. No, it's solar demand. No, it's military demand for missiles.
No, it's not. Yeah, it has not reached its industrial need yet. When
there's an annual silver deficit. Annual. It's been going on for 10 years. Ron, I think what they were saying is that there's trouble in the treasury bond land. So silver is taking a big bid. Well, yeah, but that's only one of 5 factors. When people tell me, Jim, is it time to sell at 50 and 55? I say, well, here's a checklist. Is the U.S. government debt resolved? No. Is the Mexican cartel exporting silver? No. Is the paper silver game still at work? Yeah. Has it been fixed? No. Is there a recognition that silver is in deficit and is like an Achilles heel for the dollar? Yes. I said, okay, look, until you get a change in these 6 things, silver just continues going up, and so does gold. So when you see a big move like this in a correction, a sell-off, it's time to buy. The thing is not going to go down to 52. It's not going to go down to 55. I don't think it's going to go down to 58. I'd be really surprised if it went down to 59 as a handle. But, that's where you have to guess a bit. And here's a good rule of thumb. I don't know what the support line was. I think it was 48. So from 48 to 64 is 16 points. 16 points. Now, there's a good measure of what a big correction would have for a limit. and it's 3/8. So 3/8 would be 6 points. So 64, well, there's your 58. Okay, we could go down to 58 possibly, but I really believe that anything under 60, traders are going to jump on because there's no silver. Now, when I say 3/8 is a normal correction for a good size correction after a huge move up, that's in a real market. We don't have a market.
No.
We don't have any silver. We don't have any silver. So it's unobtainium. And JP Morgan, I'd love to know, hey, JP Morgan, what are you going to do with those 24 million ounces? Are you going to drop them on the market to make a market? Or are you going to remove it quietly and say it got sold and lie? Because they can lie. They're allowed to lie. In fact, they can make false financial reports. I don't know if it was the financial regulatory bill of 2008, Dodd-Frank. I believe that's where it was. They are permitted to lie and issue false financial reports for national security reasons. Okay, it's not Patriot Act. It was after that. Okay, so they could lie about what happened to the 24 million ounces. I think they hoard them. I think they distribute them to the other Wall Street banks and they don't allow it to get to the market. What we're about to see, Ron, is silver to vanish. Real silver that could go to market is going to vanish. Let me give you a couple examples. First Majestic. They're one of my favorites. What's his name? Neumeyer? I think the CEO is named Neumeyer. You can check that if you wish. But First Majestic. They have been the most rebellious of all the silver producers. Do you think Neumeyer will say, we're going to hold back on supplying to the market our silver output from mining? We're going to do a 30, maybe 60-day moratorium on supplying the market? We have the U.S. Mint that say we're not making any coins anymore. And I believe Miles Franklin, I'm not certain, but I'm getting indications from clients that they don't have any silver coins. Okay.
Wow.
We're at unobtainium now, Ron. So when you get near unobtainium, what you see is that legitimate supply is withdrawn. Now, here's another example, but it's at the state level. Mexico is not exporting silver. And I think it's just a matter of a month or two where they say to China, we're not going to even supply you silver concentrate. We're going to keep it home. There's a movement now in Mexico to keep it home. Keep the silver home. Why? Because it's going to go up maybe to $200 or $300. This is really,
yeah. I don't doubt that at all. I found the I found this here. It says because I asked, I said, did I heard the Fed is going to start printing again under a different name than QE, and it says yes. The Federal Reserve has recently signaled a shift that looks a lot like money printing again under a different name and framework. It's called Reserve Management Purchase, RMPs. Instead of QT, the Fed announced it will begin buying short-term Treasury bills, about $40 billion per month, starting around December the 12th. So that's today.
It's interesting that coincides with their failed auctions.
Yeah.
The auctions are not having good attendance. They've had 2 or 3 in the last few months that have been wretched. Okay, this is going to go on and on. I'd like to make a point that I included in the November report for golden-jackass.com. 10 years ago, the silver price was about 1/3 of what it is now. We have a 3 times higher silver price and we have lower mine output.
Mm-hmm.
It's called supply inelasticity. Raise the price and you still got less supply. Inelastic supply. This is historic. We're making history. Normally, if you triple the price, you bring about a huge increase in supply. Why does it not happen now? Because we've run out of giant silver mines. We've run out. All we got now are little silver mines, plus Mexico. You know, a lot of people don't realize Mexico is something like 56% of global output for silver. They should really call themselves the little silver country.
Yeah, they produce the most.
And that's why the cartel has so much potential power. They could combine with Ecuador, Chile. Oh, what's the other one? Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina, and there's a fourth one. Ecuador, Chile, not Bolivia. I can't think of it right now. The Andes nations, together they produce over 60% of the global silver. Okay, if they make a cartel, they can just hold on to it. Before you know it, we got $300-400 silver price. Deny it to the market. Here's a funny one. Poland has more silver production than Russia. Poland just got a couple giant mines. Russia's got pretty much everything else. Okay, shall we shift to XRP because this is
let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
Let me do something with my shade.
I'm actually gonna I'm looking a couple things up about silver as I'm looking at silver production.
Peru, Chile, Ecuador. Argentina is small for silver.
Well, that's because they don't really have they're not really part of the mountain range.
Right. It's the Andes range.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah.
And it's unique because it's the longest mountain range on the planet.
So I looked it up. So the top ranking producers in the world are Mexico. They produce 63 trillion troy ounces of
what's
silver
the percentage?
annually.
What's the percentages though? Do you have it there?
Global
percent.
Let's see here. Let's see. So it's going to be Mexico is 24%, almost a quarter of the world. China is 12.9. Peru is 12.2. Bolivia 5. Poland is 5. Russia is 4.7. Chile 4.7.
My 56 is the Andes.
United States,
together.
United States is 4.3. So if
tiny.
you combine Mexico, Peru, Bolivia,
Chile.
and Chile, that's let's see, 5, 10, 22. Yeah, you're looking at almost half of the world's production.
Right.
In that area.
Yep. So they're in a position to join with China because let's face it, Mexico is turning communist and their biggest partner now is China. They're doing all kinds of, I think, shady deals. They're supplying silver ore and gold ore to China and not making it available to the market. If they make a cartel, you know, people tell me, Jim, what do you mean? Why a cartel? What do you mean? I said, do you know what OPEC is? Well, that's the Middle East, Persian Gulf nations working together to control supply and control price by means of their dominant role in the oil industry. Mm-hmm. They dominate the global production of oil. Well, that's what a cartel for silver could do. I mean, we could be dealing 3 years from now with a $280 price, and it goes up $80 in a single day because the Mexican cartel makes a decision to reduce by 5% the amount that they release into the market. That's what The OPEC watchers. Oh gosh, OPEC made a statement that they're going to cut back in Saudi. They're going to cut back 2% in oil production. It's just a statement, and the oil price goes up $5. Okay, that could happen to silver in the future years. That would be monstrous importance.
And for those of you who don't know, OPEC is it was created back when they did the petrodollar, when they linked the dollar to the reserve currency to the oil production in Saudi Arabia, and OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum exporting countries.
I got a trivia question for you. This is a good one. Whose idea was it to quadruple the oil price in 1973?
If you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna probably say it was Kissinger.
Very good. The Saudis, they said, "Are you kidding? There'll be objections." And Kissinger said, "We'll take care of all that. We'll blame it on the Arabs, but
yeah." And then they had the
Yom press.
Well, then they did the Yom Kippur War, and then all the Arab countries got pissed off at the United States for supporting Israel, so they cut production, and that's when we got all the gas lines in the United States in the middle part of the 70s.
Right. It wasn't hard to get the Arabs to go along with raising the price. I mean, who in his right mind would say, "Wait a minute, you telling me I'll get $100 billion more per year?" And they say, "No, per quarter." Okay, so here's the back end of that. There are many sides to the petrodollar creation and the 1973 agreement. The Saudis were told, "You will comply, and we will make you unbelievably wealthy, and you can build mansions." And what they did is they made Bentley cars made of pure silver, stuff like that.
Right.
Really opulent, horrendous actions. But the Saudis were told, you've got to purchase U.S. weapons, and we'll make sure that there's a war going on at all times. You've got to purchase U.S. weapons. And there's more to this.
Well, that was right about the same time that Brzezinski was laying the foundations for radical Islam to be the next boogeyman after they brought in the Soviet Union to invade Afghanistan. And then they broke the Soviets, that and Chernobyl. And then, of course, we dealt with the radical Islam. Anyway.
Yeah, but the point that I want to make was 1/4 of all the OPEC sales went to the Exchange Stabilization Fund.
Interesting.
So the United States government said, "We're going to hold your treasury bonds, only 1/4 of them, and it'll be used to stabilize markets." Are you aware that 4 years ago, the Saudis were told you're not going to get it back?
Interesting. I did not.
Yeah. And you'll never guess why. The U.S. Supreme Court said you can't get back your treasury bonds that are being held in escrow by the U.S. government. They didn't say the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And the reason was because you guys did 9/11.
Oh, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Jim. I was literally going to say it didn't have anything to do with the 19 hijackers, did it? That was my question.
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of payback coming. And, anyone who's paid attention lately will see that the Saudis have one leg in BRICS with a Russian boot on, and the other leg in the U.S., Anglo-American Five Eyes with a boot that's U.S. military.
Right.
And that is a very delicate balance to achieve. And I wouldn't want the role. I'll go so far as to say that this ain't the original Mohammed bin Salman. This ain't the original. The original wasn't sufficiently bright, wasn't sufficiently compliant, so he got gunned down and replaced. And I defy any American to show me that this is the original Mohammed bin Salman, the prince.
I'm gonna respectfully push back on that a little bit, Jimbo.
Go right ahead.
I mean, everything that I understood about Mohammed bin Salman was he took an extreme interest in national politics from a very young age, and even though he wasn't in line to become the crown prince, that was one of the main things that that was predicated on the Abraham Accords, and the Las Vegas was an assassination attempt against him because the Saudi government owns like the top 4 or 5 floors of Mandalay Bay.
His own half brothers did the killing, Ron. We have no idea what goes on behind Riyadh palace walls. None whatsoever. There was a 4-month period where Mohammed bin Salman was never seen in public.
Well, I can't.
All right, let's not worry about it. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because right now Saudi has allowed OPEC plus. That's what they call it, OPEC plus Russia. So Russia dictates a lot of oil policy for the Saudis and the entire Persian Gulf nations. Russia has agreements for liquefied natural gas with Qatar. They call it Qatar. I call it Qatar. I don't care. I call it Qatar. So what?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Tomato.
I love the whatever.
Whatever.
Okay, so
what about speaking of liquid natural gas? I'm meaning to shift subjects, but speaking of liquid natural LNG, is the I'm hearing rumors or rumblings that Ukraine was responsible for the destruction of the pipeline from Russia to, or from the Nord Stream pipeline under the sea.
Could you repeat that? Who is responsible?
Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Ukraine with the U.S. Navy frogmen. It was U.S. SEALs. And, I really wonder a couple things. Those U.S. SEALs in the Navy who assisted in destroying or sabotage Nord Stream 2, were they paid a lot of money or were they murdered afterwards? And if you think there's no precedent, you're a novice to this game.
Yeah, it's called, just
SEAL Team 6.
Look at Lee Harvey Oswald.
SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, SEAL Team 6.
The ones who supposedly captured bin Laden. Okay, yeah. I got to tell you a quick little story. It was 2003. I was working for a consulting firm in Pennsylvania. I was working as a marketing research analyst. And on one project, we had this one guy. He was a database expert. He was a really sharp fellow. He was U.S. educated. He was Pakistani, and his name was Ahmad, along with about 100 million others. Ahmad was my buddy. We had lunch together occasionally. He was working on projects with me. He was the database pro who helped arrange for my databases to be available, and I'd have programs to do SAS, statistical programming, to do analysis and model building and this and that. And he was my database guy. Hey, Ahmad, is it all clean? Is it all ready? Yep, it'll be ready tomorrow, 10 a.m. Okay, after lunch one time, he said, Jim, you got to see this. So I went to his office, and he shows me a Karachi newspaper. Karachi, Pakistan.
Right.
And he said, I know you don't know Arabic, but this is not Arabic. This is Urdu. Urdu is the national language of Pakistan. They share the alphabet with the Arabs. But just like you have Spanish and English have the same alphabet, and you got accents and marks in Spanish, the same in French, I know what the French accents are, and I know what the Spanish accents are, and I know how to use them. I don't know much about the German accent, and there's really only the umlaut, but they have a different double S. They call it the Schloss. It's like a beta. Okay. What he said was, Jim, take a look at this title. And I said, okay, what's it say, Ahmad? And he said, The Funeral March of Osama bin Laden. And I said, what's the date on that? And he said, April 2003. And I said, read to me. What does it say? And it says, tens of thousands showed up for their national hero, Osama bin Laden, who died last month of liver problems.
Liver or kidney?
Whatever, kidney.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Because he was
You're right.
seen
kidney.
Yeah.
Kidney. You're right. I said, keep on reading. And there's more information. Then something about his family and mourning and where his family lived and how long he had been back in Karachi, where he wanted to die, and all kinds of different, human interest items. And it was like 2 or 3 columns in Urdu. I didn't have a smartphone at that time, but if I had, I would have taken a picture of it and mailed it to myself for posterity. But that's the sort of stuff that gets scrubbed. He said, Jim, bin Laden been dead for a while. The American government, they find a lot of value in keeping him alive and making him like an evil guy, the enemy of the people. And I said, yeah, the boogeyman. And he said, yep.
Emmanuel Goldstein.
I kept up with Ahmad for a few months after that job ended.
You know who Emmanuel Goldstein was?
No.
Again, that's from the book 1984. And Emmanuel Goldstein was the enemy. That he was always the boogeyman that they would always blame the wars on, and
couldn't catch him.
And they could never catch him. But hey, a CNN reporter can go catch him.
Yeah. All right, Ron. Let's get to XRP because we're going long.
Yeah.
We're going long, and I want to get a lot of meat here in XRP. It was a year and a half ago that a colleague of mine, Sky Crane, sat me down and said, Jim, you need to learn some things about crypto because the next couple of years, they're going to be historic. There's something going on right now, and it's embryonic. It's a very early stage, but there's something called XRP. Remember, this was a year and a half ago. This was the spring months of 2024. He said, I made a lot of money in crypto, and a lot of them have been with these teeny tiny little things that go up from, like 20 per penny, and then I sell it at 2 cents. So I made a 40x gain on it, but I only had a few $100s. So I 40x on a couple $100, and, thousands upon thousands kept on adding up. He said, I did it over and over again. I bought something at a penny and a half. I sold it for $3. I bought something at $1. I sold it for $12. And my rule was if it didn't have intellectual property, I got rid of it. So what I'm finding, Jim, is that after getting rid of all these other non-IP coins, I find myself with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. And I got a little of XLM, but I don't think it's going to really take off in any big way. Not like XRP. He said XRP is making deals. They're making contracts. They're getting global adoption. And it's happening slowly. And remember, this was April, May, June last year. And I said, what are you doing, Sky? He has a real name. I said, what are you doing, Sky? Are you going to go like 1/3 in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP? And he said, no, I'm going to go more like 90% XRP. I said, really? You have to explain to me how that all works and what you're doing. And he said, oh, no problem, sure. So he started talking about the bridge asset and transfers from banks to banks across borders. Talks about cross-border settlement, net trade settlement, like on a monthly basis. he said that Japan is well along. He said they're going to standardize it in Japan. This is a year and a half ago. And he said, are you aware that UAE has invested $200 million to make a crypto foundation as part of their central bank? And they're going to be doing crypto payments for the energy business in the energy sector. And that's when I started really catching on. That XRP was being used for a small percentage of energy deals with Europe and India. Then I did a consult call with a guy in Oman, and his name was also Ahmad, because there are 100 million Ahmads. And he told me that UAE has really gone in a very big way at the lowest level retail. I said, you mean like utility bills? He said, yeah, and cell phone bills and water bills. He said, water bill is a big issue in the Persian Gulf, water. Electric is also, because it powers air conditioning.
Yeah. So well, they use desalination plants all over the Middle East.
Yeah. So I learned that small companies were being paid in XRP in UAE. And the one example he gave me was, I don't remember whether it was an electric contractor or a cement contractor. I think it was cement. But they got cement, they got glass, they got furniture, they got electric. These are the contractors. He said, yeah, Jim, I know somebody. And you said, are there any 8 to 10 story buildings where the contractors are taking XRP? And that's exactly what example I have. I think it was a cement contractor for one project. They're using XRP. I said, is this a trial basis before they use it for cross-border energy deals? And he said, I think that's the natural progression. All right, so what Sky Crane told me to do was take all of your Bitcoin and all of your Ethereum and gradually move it into XRP before the election in November of 24. He said, when Trump, he didn't say if, he said, when Trump is reelected, there's going to be a change of the guard. Gensler's going to go out. There'll be a better CFTC chairman also, and we have that with Caroline Pham. And he said, I think we're going to see a multiple move, like from 50 cents to $2, $2.25, right after the election. And that's exactly what we got. And in the following months, he didn't expect it, but it went up to 3, which just gave it a lot of ground to come back to the base of 2. All right. My friend Sky is going to retire on his XRP, and I don't want to give away anything more for privacy reasons, but he's got a goal. He knows where it must go in order for him to cash out and live out his years. He's a little older than I am, and is a good deal smarter than I am in crypto. I prefer calling it digital assets and digital technology for banking, digital finance. We got some new terms like TradFi is traditional finance. That's Wall Street and big bank.